Orestes was the son of Agamemnon, and when Agamemnon left for Troy to call in great winds, he sacrificed his daughter to, I believe, the goddess Artemis, to call in winds so that he would have an easy time getting to Troy, let's say. And while he was gone, his wife took on a lover who, upon Agamemnon's return, murdered him. And so Orestes was absent at the time, and when he finally returned, he swore an oath to avenge his father, and he murdered his mother in the process of this, in coming to terms with the death of his father. And as soon as he murdered his mother, he was plagued by the Furies, by the three scions of Hades and of the underworld. And now in Greek and in the Homeric tradition, the Furies are called the Erinyes, which in more modern Greek more directly translates to remorse. And so we can see here the Orestes has been confronted with a complex whose constellated feeling tone is that of remorse, and he's being driven by his remorse, and he's being pestered and harassed and torn apart by his remorse. And so Orestes then goes to Delphi at the direction of Apollo. From Delphi, he addresses the Delphic oracle. He goes from there to Athena, his home city, and he addresses the council at Athena, and he's judged, and they make a vote on whether he should live or die for his matricide. And Athena herself, the goddess, is the deciding vote in a tiebreaker that decides that Orestes should live, and that to appease the Erinyes, they should erect a shrine for them so that they can be worshipped. And the Erinyes then convert themselves from remorse into the Eumenides, which I can't remember what the actual translation is, but what the parts of the word broken down mean is the good hate. So it goes from remorse into something positive, which is the good hate. It's the hate that drives oneself to do better. So looking at these parts of the Homeric story, we have the Erinyes as this feeling-toned complex of remorse driving him through a regression into the underworld, consulting with the Delphic oracle at the behest of Apollo, who is very much so a symbol of the self, in that he is the symbol of the sun. He's that which we revolve around. He's that which shines. But he has to descend into the underworld to speak to an oracle who, by all accounts, gained her oracular power from the breath of the dying python, the dying snake, the dying goddess symbol of the earth that Apollo had defeated at Delphi. And from there traveled to the city, which in and of itself, because of its walled nature, Jung attributes to a kind of symbolism of the self, is subjected to his own internal judge and his own internal his complex is in a sense, but his own sense of right and wrong, his own morality, with Athena as the divine judge and the divine psychopomp, the anima in her aspect as the adjudicator of the psyche, decided that he should live, and that the proper course of action was to integrate the Erinyes into the personality, was to integrate them into the self and transform them through their respect into a shrine that took them from being remorse into good hate. So this is the Homeric tradition. In the plays of Euripides, the Erinyes, the Eumenides, are not here placated, and Orestes then has to move into the woods, into the unconscious of the soul, and here to capture the statue of Artemis and bring it back to Athens, to bring back the soul of the wild feminine, the totem is more accurate, of the wild feminine. And here he confronts the priestesses and priests of Artemis, who are bound to sacrifice all intruders and all strangers. And so he's laid upon the sacrificial table. He's about to be sacrificed by a priestess when the priestess and he in turn realize that the priestess about to sacrifice him is his sister. And from then they conspire to capture the statue of Artemis, to bring it back to Athens together. And from there, the Edenius are placated. And so what this continuation of the myth, as I interpret it from a Jungian perspective, is that he has to delve even further into the unconscious, into the unknown, into the forest, that wild place that has not been touched by human industry. He confronts their series of complexes and people that are entirely foreign to him and will in fact sacrifice his ego self for the unconscious, that have no desire for the simplicity and for the domination of the ego. And he finds there the dynamic and living spirit of his sister, that is his anima. It is his anima not as it's expressed through Athena, not as it's expressed through Artemis, but as it's a real and lived function within his own personal unconscious. And together, she directs him through the unconscious as a priestess of the mysteries of the unconscious to capture the statue of Artemis, who's related to the bear and the great wild mother, and bring it back to the city of Athens. So here we have the anima in a threefold aspect, as the wise adjudicator, as the mistress of the wild unconscious, and as the dynamic and living personification of our own personal unconscious as it directs us into the greater unconscious of the woods. And so within that, we have a look at the initiatory power of myth. We have a look at what Jung was looking to as he strove to understand the unconscious and understand these parts of ourselves. And how in turn we can look to these myths and look to our ancestors and look to the spirits of the land that came before us to create something new of our world, to create something new of ourselves, and through ourselves, the world. So I want to thank you very much for making it this far. I want to wish you a good morning, evening, afternoon, or good night, wherever you find yourself. Thank you for watching. This has been The Art of Remembering.